More than 2,000 people have died in China because of the coronavirus outbreak, and the Chinese city Wuhan is the epicenter of this virus, which has now spread to more than 25 countries. Earlier, we showed you guys a video on how a thriller novel named The Eyes of Darkness by Dean Koontz, published in 1981, mentioned a virus named Wuhan 400, leaving most of us stumped on whether this was just a coincidence or a prophecy made 40 years ago. For all those who missed out on that video, the link is given in the description box below. And now we bring to you excerpts from the book, which has created quite a storm world over. But before we get to the details of chapter 39 of the book that has 13 mentions of Wuhan 400, we'd like to bring out an interesting angle to this entire mystery. According to a report published in the South China Morning Post on February 13, 2020, the 1981 edition of the book by Dean Koontz initially had the virus originating in Russia. The report states, the first edition of the book, written under Koontz's pseudonym Lee Nicholas, concerns a virus called Gorky 400 that was created by the Russians and emerged from the city of Gorky. The report states that the change to Wuhan came when the book was released in hardback under Koontz's own name in 1989. The report adds, the year of the book's re-release is significant because it marks the end of the Cold War, and with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the country was no longer communist. Well, South China Morning Post, guess you need to get your facts right. The Cold War ended in 1991 and not 1989. Also, this image published in the same report claiming the virus was earlier called Gorky 400 still has Dean R. Koontz's name mentioned on the top, leaving us to wonder. If the 1981 edition of the book was published under Koontz's pseudonym Lee Nicholas, why isn't that name mentioned? We'll let you think about that, but a little later. So let's get back to chapter 39 of The Eyes of Darkness by Dean Koontz. For all those who have read and not read the book, here's what is written about Wuhan 400 in the book. To begin with, the book calls Wuhan 400 a dangerous new biological weapon developed by the Chinese at their rDNA labs outside of the city of Wuhan. And it was the 400th viable strain of man-made microorganisms created at that research center. It adds, Wuhan 400 is a perfect weapon. It afflicts only human beings. No other living creature can carry it. And like syphilis, Wuhan 400 can't survive outside a living human body for longer than a minute, which means it can't permanently contaminate objects or entire places the way anthrax and other virulent microorganisms can. And when the host expires, the Wuhan 400 within him perishes a short while later, as soon as the temperature of the corpse drops below 86 degrees Fahrenheit. It goes on to read, the Chinese could use Wuhan 400 to wipe out a city or a country, and then there wouldn't be any need for them to conduct a tricky and expensive decontamination before they moved in and took over the conquered territory. And Wuhan 400 has other equally important advantages over most biological agents. Now here comes the scary part of the chapter. It reads, for one thing, you can become an infectious carrier only 4 hours after coming into contact with the virus. That's an incredibly short incubation period. Once infected, no one lives more than 24 hours. Most die in 12. It's worse than the Ebola virus in Africa, infinitely worse. Wuhan 400's kill rate is 100%. No one is supposed to survive. The Chinese tested it on God knows how many political prisoners. They were never able to find an antibody or an antibiotic that was effective against it. The virus migrates to the brain stem, and there it begins secreting a toxin that literally eats away brain tissues like battery acid dissolving cheesecloth. It destroys the part of the brain that controls all of the body's automatic functions. The victim simply ceases to have a pulse, functioning organs, or any urge to breathe. What's interesting is that before Dean Koontz's book mentioning Wuhan 400 went viral, scientists of Beijing-sponsored South China University of Technology said that the killer coronavirus probably originated from a laboratory in Wuhan. Well, fiction can definitely be strange at times.